Everybody. Um, I was not expecting to do a live stream right now. I I'm gonna give it a few minutes. I'm here in Utah right now. It's 12:22, and I just got the most unbelievable news. After a long day of going out and getting footage of temples and stuff here in Utah Valley, uh, spend some time with my mom and stepdad. Got back to the Airbnb kind of late and went and took a shower. And right as I got out, I got a text from Mindy with Temples of Jesus, and the text said, "Oh no, President Nelson." And I assumed that she was referring to like a recent article that came out saying that like he's essentially lost his eyesight. Um, and so that's why I said, I'm like, oh, his eyesight is gone now. You just found out about that. And then I was like, no, there's no way. There's no way that he's passed away. And so I looked it up, and that's what just came out. The article that I was looking at, this was like maybe 10 minutes ago or something. And at that time, it said that the article was just published 28 minutes before that. So he passed away after, oh, I can't even remember now. I think it was at, can you guys let me know? I can't, I don't have my laptop or anything. I'm sorry that I'm not shaved right now. Was it at 10 p.m. Utah time or was it 10 a.m.? Please let me know. And please, I lost my train of thought. Oh, Diamond Gem Creation says just after 10 p.m. Yeah. So, what was I doing? Honey, at 10 p.m.
Grocery shopping.
We were done at my mom's house and we were at the
Walmart.
Okay, so yeah, we were just like done at my parents' house and then at Walmart we had to get some additional stuff for our trip. And oh, okay. Um
Plenty.
yeah. Sorry, somebody just tried to call. I didn't put it on do not disturb. Sorry, I can't but I can't what are you guys thinking right now? Catch the Buzz says I'm just in shock. I'm Worthy VP. Wow, I was at Walmart at the same time in American Fork as well. Well, we were in Saratoga Springs. That's where our Airbnb is. Um, we have pets now, and so we have house sitters while we're here in Utah. Uh, let's see. Megan Jensen, I honestly thought he was going to live forever. I know. I I had scenarios in my mind where we would sorry, we would see him live to like 110 or something like that. Um, I don't want to get into my speculations or ideas that we entertain on the channel just because, this is a really sensitive time and it's just sad. But yeah, no, I did not think it was going to happen this soon. I did not at all think it was going to happen this soon. Oh, what I was going to ask earlier is I hope the internet is okay enough here. So just let me know if the video quality is okay and the sound and everything. Gracie Lou Freebish, he prepared our hearts for 7 years. Yep. Craig Nelson crying right now. JD, the Lord must need President Oaks right now. I will miss President Nelson. Craig Nelson says internet is great. Yeah, as far as what the Lord needs, we're going to have to wait and see. It seems like President Nelson's life was extended, prolonged. Maybe so, maybe not, but that's what it feels like. He certainly accomplished a lot during his presidency, and I don't need to tell you because we talk about it all the time. It's shocking that today's Saturday and conference is next week. He passed away a day before or a week before general conference. And again, nothing that I say right now, I don't want it to lessen just the seriousness of what's going on, but just I don't know. It's one of these times that just like feels it feels surreal. Right now we're in the surreal phase. At least I am. It's like that fog of war phase where it almost like doesn't even feel real, but it starts to like settle in, you know, after just like little by little. I am worthy VIP. God is calling his older generals home, and it is even more evident that we need to rise up and stand up to the holy calling that has been entrusted in us. Jim Asel, I hope that's how it's pronounced. I thought he would make the millennium. Cognitive resonance. President Nelson went the extra mile working for everybody. I hope his rest is a delight for him. It definitely will be. You know, he is now with his first wife, Dancel. You know, he's talked about her a number of times, and during his presidency, I want to say that he had a daughter who had passed away from cancer, I think. And then of course all of his other loved ones that are on the other side of the veil. Let's say a prayer right now, at least right now in your heart, but let's pray for Wendy and his family. I pray for all church leadership because you know they're all affected as well. They know him. He is a dear friend to all of them. So just pray for everybody. Pray for the whole church. But I don't know. I can't believe I'm doing this live stream right now. You know, for the rest of the time that I was going to be here in Utah, it seemed pretty straightforward. I have things that I have planned, people I'm going to meet. Um, before coming here, you know, I had recorded just a bunch of videos, so that there would, you know, still be videos for you while I'm gone because I'm not going to make any videos here. That wasn't the plan. I'm recording videos. I'm going to temples and church sites. Um, I just, this is just, okay. Top G mindset coach, utterly amazing prophet. So much love or so much heart and respect for President Nelson. His conference talk, Overcome the World and Find Rest, changed my life forever more. President Nelson's legacy is amazing. Tyson Price, I'm wondering if they will put President Oaks in as the new prophet for a general conference. Uh, that's, yeah, certainly that's what will happen. Because the next president of the church is whoever the senior apostle is, and in this case, it's President Oaks. He's the next president of the church, and I don't want to focus on that too much, but sorry, give me just a second here. Um, Raising Jane, I thought they waited for the funeral before announcing the next prophet. I don't know. Honestly, I don't remember how it went with President Monson. Because I wasn't paying as much attention back then as I am now. Now doing this channel, I'm essentially like this freelance church news reporter, citizen journalist, whatever. Um, no, I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen. Is we're all going to sustain President Oaks as the new president of the church next week. CMZ Barth says, of course, they still need to eventually reorganize the first presidency. Yeah. Someone said, let's see, Sandra Jeffries, I wonder if President Nelson pre-recorded a message. Oh gosh, yeah. Will we hear during conference? I don't know. I don't know if they would do that. Ginger S is also wondering the same thing. Daniel Hershey praying for the Nelson family. Civic Republic Military. I lived through 3 prophets: Hinckley, Monson, Nelson. I just my first experience with President Nelson, aside from watching General Conference, okay, so I went on my mission to Spain, and the first 3 weeks was at the Provo MTC, and then after that, the rest of the time was in the Madrid MTC. And President Hinckley, who was president of the church at that time, was doing like a European tour, and just the missionaries that were in the MTC had like a small like a meeting with him. He came and spoke to us, but before he came, President Nelson, or at the time Elder Nelson, came, and I was right in the front, the closest that you could be to him. And that was the very first time. So this was back in 2004, like May of 2004. That was the very first time I heard of his thing about gathering scattered Israel. He asked us, what is the purpose of life? And, everybody gave the typical answers: to come and get a physical body, to have experiences here on earth, and to be tested, go through probation. And then he gave as one of the answers. I think he like wrote up three things on the board, like only three things, and one of them was gathering scattered Israel. And he was obviously thinking specifically of us at that in that moment as missionaries, and telling us that we're here serving missions. And then of course the whole church, we're all supposed to be member missionaries, but that we're supposed to gather scattered Israel. And that stuck with me. And then when he became president of the church, that became like the big thing, the big focus in that specific phrase, gathering scattered Israel. And that's how he started his presidency. After his first general conference, there was a worldwide youth devotional called Hope of Israel, and it was all about the rising generation and gathering scattered Israel. So that had been on his mind for a long time, at least since 2004. So many things have happened during his time as far as missionary work goes, and building temples. He was the president of the church that led the church through the 2020, and everything that happened both to missionary work and temple work during that year. There was a lot of opposition and trials that year. uh, so much has happened since 2018. Just so much. Let's see. Christian ADHD mom. I served 2014 to 2016. I'm going to go back through the chat. Tyson Price. They added his new hymn to the new hymn book. Yeah. Z-Barth. Yes, great for him to see Dancel again. Megan Jensen, Church Newsroom is the best source. I think someone earlier was saying how can they find out for sure? Just do a Google search. Everybody is posting about it. I saw KSL post it. Church News. Everybody's posting it right now. Just do a Google search. Keto Coach says Gordon B. Hinckley, 1995, was sustained 9 days after Howard W. Hunter's death. Russell M. Nelson, 2018, was sustained 8 days after Thomas S. Monson's death. President has hello, just tuning in now. When did this happen? He has passed on. Yes, if you're joining just now, President Nelson has passed away. It just happened a couple hours ago. What time is it right now? It's 2:41 Mountain Time. I'm in Utah right now, of all places when this happens. And he passed away after 10 p.m. Mountain Time. Mindy's here. Temples of Jesus. She's the one that told me. Mindy, I was just getting ready for the night. I was honestly ready to just end the night. It's been a long day. I went to a bunch of temples and, got footage for my other channel, Explore Church Sites. So I've been doing a lot of walking. I was tired. And then I got your text. She says, we had just finished an incredible adult session stake conference. Oh, gosh. I can't believe that this is happening right now. I just it doesn't feel real. Tash Jubilee, we thank thee, O God, for a prophet. Anita Mulstein, KSL is doing his memorial just after 10 p.m. A coding to my phone is only. I don't know what the last part of your message says or means. Low Dog says, I was hoping he would usher us into the millennium. Well, we don't know when it's going to happen. You know, if you watch my channel, that I think it's going to happen sooner than later. And for all we know, he possibly has, even though he himself has not gone into the millennium. What if something happens? What if we move into the millennium this year? What if it happens next year? He has certainly done a lot to prepare the church for the second coming. When it happens, whenever we see the resurrected saints, he's going to be there. That's going to be a really powerful moment. Mindy says, and the last airman of a special unit died yesterday I think at 100. Like a U.S. Air Force veteran that was in a special unit. I'll have to look into that. Frank says 7 days before conference. Yep, we were talking about that earlier. God is in the timing of all these things. We know that. We know that. We know that. Even before I started my channel, that's just, you know, hopefully everyone understands that. But ever since I started my channel, I've really, really come to know that. So him passing so close to conference is, I'm sure it's meant to be. Jeez. Megan Jensen says 17 days after what just happened here in Utah Valley. Christ Pearls is here. This is Jessica. She has a channel called Christ Pearls. She's coming to our Airbnb tomorrow. We're going to have dinner. Our families are going to get together. I'm so sad about him dying, but it's a miracle he made it to 101. What an amazing man. I know. This whole thing is just, everything is it's so hard for me to wrap my mind around, even though I've been following it so closely and in so much detail, and I've seen all these miracles take place during his presidency, and the timing of everything, in just it still is hard for me to wrap my head around all this. Samus Scraps rejoicing for him. Yeah, let's all do that. And then for those of us that are still here on this side of the veil, but especially his family and friends and church leadership, let's say a prayer for them. This is a really tough moment. Lillian Smith, I just found out of this wonderful man's passing. Rest in peace, President Nelson. Frank, we've had a heart surgeon for a prophet and leader. Now we will have a judge for a prophet. Yep, we've talked about that on the channel, and I don't want to look too far into the future right now, but Mindy says, praise to our Lord and King Jesus the Christ. He is resurrected, so President Nelson can also be risen again. Yep, that's true. That's true. It makes me think about, I have this spreadsheet where we've gone over all these um, visions, visitations, near death experiences, and stuff. And there's a couple, I want to say there's a couple of them that talk about the fact that there's just like, well, okay. And it's not just from the visions, visitations. We have this from other sources too. But when you go over to the other side of the veil, you're just as busy, if not more busy over there. You're more than likely even more busy over there, but you retain your your priesthood office, and he's going to be a leader over there too. He may have things that he's supposed to do over there before the second coming, maybe to help prepare that side of the veil for the second coming. But he is now with all the other past prophets, which is, for me, when I think about that, that must be a really wild experience. Like, of course, all of us at some point are going to meet all these prophets for ourselves, at least sometime in eternity. But can you imagine being the prophet, passing away, and then meeting all your predecessors, and then possibly, most likely, receiving assignments? There is one visitation of Brigham Young where he told Wilford Woodruff, who was president of the church at the time that he had this encounter with Brigham Young, who had passed on. Brigham Young said that it was now his charge to watch over the church. And President Wilford Woodruff, in a nutshell, said that it seems like that's what happens. You have Joseph Smith that passed away. Part of his duties, I guess, immediately afterwards is to watch over the church. But then once Brigham Young passed away, like, now he is watching over the church. And this is the only place that I know of where we get this concept of the most recently passed away president of the church watching over the church. But if that's the case, then that's what President Nelson, that's what he's going to be doing now, is watching over the church, if all that is true. Patrick C says prayers. Tank 6121991. I was literally saying a prayer for President Nelson and his family right before I read the news. Well done, thou good and faithful servant. He was definitely a good and faithful servant. He did so many things in his life. Just one thing I want to point out was, I think it's when he was the president of the Sunday school general president, or whatever that calling is called. He was in a meeting with the apostles and whoever else, and it's when President Spencer W. Kimball was president of the church. And in that meeting, he said, brethren, I feel like we need to, like, all of us need to learn Chinese. And if it was you, if it was me, we may have been like, oh yeah, he's talking to the apostles, and because they're probably the ones that are going to be the most involved in China or whatever. But President Nelson said, I didn't hear President Hinckley give any exceptions. Like, everyone except for Russell M. Nelson learned Chinese. And so he took that seriously, and he learned Chinese. And there's interactions that he's had with the Chinese. It was President Nelson that announced the Shanghai China Temple. It did he did make use of his Chinese. It was meant to be for him to learn Chinese. Um, and I know that he learned other languages, but he was just very alive, very curious, always learning, and just always trying to do what he felt that he should do. And sorry, I'm not very good with words right now. Like I said, I'm really tired. We drove straight through from Independence to Saratoga Springs. It was like a little bit over a 16-hour drive, and drove through the night. Made it, but I'm still like trying to catch back up with sleep. But President Nelson, he was not. I guess what I'm trying to say is he was not lazy. It's like he made. I strongly feel like he made the most of his life. Matt is alive. I really appreciate and love President Nelson. Jumpieva, the Lord knew the Lord knew coming into this conference it will be important. Yeah, it will. It will. It For one thing, I mean, I think that whenever the Lord does something, he hits many birds with one stone. One of those birds seems to have to do with General Conference, the timing of General Conference. Maybe because like whenever this happens, like everybody is, I think, at least I am, everyone's very focused on that next General Conference, and I feel like it may be even more so with President Nelson just because of how incredible he was, um, how much he did, and then living to 101. Like there's a lot of attention on President Nelson, I think, relatively speaking, relative to his predecessors, maybe, especially during a time like this, like when the world is the way that it is. So there's going to be a lot of eyes, I think, on this general conference, and I think that we should really pay attention. We should always pay attention, but like really, really pay attention to the messages of this conference. President Nelson was the 17th prophet of his church. Yep, and now President Oaks is going to be the 18th. ESM Bunches of Crazy 907 says, do you think they'll use his conference talk? Yeah, somebody had brought that up earlier in the live stream, and I don't know. I don't know if that's ever been done before, but I don't know if there was ever a situation where a president of the church passed away so close to conference. I'm not aware of any general conference talks that have been pre-recorded and then given in conference. What's the word? Posthumously? Jumpieva says, this seems to be the era of doing new things. That's true. Prepper's Apprentice. It's so hard to believe. Part of me thought he would live forever, and I suppose he will, but you know what I mean. I know exactly what you mean. I was saying earlier, um, I was entertaining the idea, if unless the second coming would have happened before then, that he would like live to 110, it seemed kind of unlikely, but I felt like that could be. Um, it's crazy because even though we knew his age, like I probably a lot of people, maybe not most, I don't know, but a lot of people probably felt the same way that he would just keep going. Chad uh, Goldweight, imagine his greeting party. Who is he meeting now? Well, yeah, we were talking about that just a minute ago, but there's always people jumping on the stream. So the first thing that came to mind for me was his wife, Dancel. And then I think he had a daughter that passed away. I think of cancer, I believe. So them for sure. And then other family members. I think about his mother and father, who I'm trying to remember the story, but I can't remember if they were just inactive in the church or if they weren't members. I think they were inactive, and it made President Nelson really sad that they weren't um, sealed as a family. And then later on in life, his his family was sealed together, and so that's probably like a really big thing for him right now is being with his mother and father and I don't know, maybe if he had brothers and sisters, if they're already passed away. And then, oh, Pam Metcalf says inactive. Yeah, okay, so they were inactive. And then we were just talking about just a minute ago other presidents of the church. I imagine that passing away as a president of the church is going to be a different experience for that president of the church that passed away because they still have responsibilities uh, on the other side of the veil. Anyway, I'm not going to repeat the rest of it of what I said, but um, let's see. Adam Beck. That would be weird if President Nelson knew he was going to die before conference and told others to make sure we share his talk. Yeah, I mean, who knows? Who knows what he knew, what he didn't? I just Charlotte Young says died at 10 p.m. Mountain Time in his sleep. Angela Coley, I'm sure that the prophet has been prepared for his funeral and the transition to the next president for a very long time. They know the drill. I will miss him. Yeah, I think you're probably right. They probably yeah, you're probably right. Aunt May vlogs, so sad. I just watched something from the church about President Nelson, and it was like in past tense. Amy Hatch, how old is President Oaks? I think someone earlier said 93. Oh, Christine Ellis says President Oaks is 93. Markety says a lot of eyes will be on the church. Maybe we will have a surge of investigators, especially what happened earlier this month. Maybe it's all good timing. We love you, dear prophet. Yeah, well, for me, there's just no doubt that it's good timing because, um, I mean, I think all of our lives we're on a certain schedule, and the Lord is in the timing of everybody, but especially the president of the church. Um, and when something like this happens, when the president of the church passing away exactly a week before General Conference, yeah, there certainly must be something with the timing, and I don't know what, and like I said before, I think the Lord does, he hits many birds with one stone, but it feels like one of those things may have to do with this conference. Um, Zebarth says President Oaks is the prophet now. President Holland is next in apostolic seniority. Yeah. Um, Epico, the prophet of the heart, Russell Nelson has left us. Now the prophet of the laws, Down H. Oaks, will follow. Yeah. His President Nelson's last two talks. The first of his last two talks was his big second coming talk about the second coming. Um, sorry, that's a little redundant. And then his last one was having confidence in the presence of God. And he is now in the presence of God. He's on the other side of the veil. He told us what to do to have confidence in the presence of God, which of course you can be in the presence of God in a number of ways. The more obvious ways are the second coming, or if you or I pass away. But also, there's many other times that it can happen, especially going to the temple. But it's just his last few talks are now even more interesting now, knowing that they were his last two talks. Oh, sorry. I'm still. I mean, obviously, we're still just in the first few hours of this. I'm still just like I'm just processing this. Let me go back through the chat. I'm probably gonna wrap this up soon. That I scrolled up and then scrolled down, and there was somebody that left a comment that made me think of something. Um, Another thing, and it's along these lines. Tomorrow is church. Tomorrow is the Sabbath day. There are many people that are asleep right now. Um, they're gonna wake up tomorrow, and they may not hear the news until they are at church. In fact, I would imagine that there's probably going to be like I'm sure that it would probably be announced in church tomorrow. Of course, for some people on the other side of the world, I guess church is already going on, or they've already had church potentially, right? Yeah, of course. Yeah. But at least for us here in the United States, some people are going to be hearing this for the first time in church. And I feel like there's most likely going to be an announcement, which is going to make the news like even more. It's going to, I think, intensify it because they're learning about it. A lot of people are going to be learning about it on Sunday and potentially at church. And then a week later, general conference. So, yeah. Michael Burton says, yeah, we had our church already and found out in our group chat for our ward. Sully Sullivan says, Sun is on mission in Sydney. Yes, they announced it. Yeah, because I'm sure, like, let's say that church is starting right now, somewhere. Um, and if the church hasn't already sent out like a email, like a message to read to the ward, I'm sure that like there's a lot of bishops that would just automatically announce that. Benjamin Baird, uh, President Nelson, president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, just passed away a couple hours ago. At 10, at or around 10 p.m. Mountain Time. B. Levelt, thank you, Jared. The next week will be full of change and remembrance. It certainly will be. It's hard. So look, it's like for me, it's even more so. But okay, Jared, come on. It's 1 a.m. But let's focus, Jared. Okay, when President Nelson turned 98, that was the birthday when he became the longest living prophet or apostle in this dispensation. The day before is when Queen Elizabeth II passed away. When she passed away, it was that was really shocking to me because she had been around my entire life. I had only ever known a Queen of England, and it felt like she was just a permanent, eternal fixture for the United Kingdom. And you just like you think, yeah, she's getting old. Someday, of course, she'll pass away, and then that day comes, and it's the same thing right now with President Nelson. Not exactly the same, but let me think here. Yeah, no, he no, it is the same. It is the same for me, actually, come to think of it, because he's been an apostle my entire life. By the time I was born, he had already been an apostle for a little while. But even even just since 2018, um, it feels like it's been a lifetime. I don't know about you, but if I were to go back in time to 2018, so many things have changed since that time in my life. I'm sure it's the same for everybody. TLMRM21. Interesting that the Pope passed away this year too. Yeah, and I've done videos about that. I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but yes, yes, that is interesting. Tammy Lynn, it makes me feel so emotional about it. I shouldn't feel so sad. It was his time. Well, even if it was, it's hard. This is a tough pill to swallow. We've all really come to love and appreciate him. He's so good. He's such a good person. It feels like nobody had ever had anything bad to say about him. It's been nothing but praise. Like even just small things, like I remember reading or somewhere or watching a video somewhere about someone talking about how he had a really good memory and he would remember people's names. He'd meet somebody, maybe meet their family. Years would go by and he would still remember, the son or daughter's name. Like, oh, how is your son so and so doing? Even though he had only met them like one time. He loved, he cared, and he lived a very exemplary life. Earlier in the stream, I was just talking about how it felt like he really made the most of his life. He was very smart. He learned a lot of things. He would go the extra mile. Um, One thing I remember Sister Nelson saying is that he didn't like to put things off. He was proactive. So like I think she told a story of like they were talking one night. They were like getting ready to go to bed. They were like in bed, but like getting ready to go to bed, and then or getting ready to watch a TV show before going to bed or something. And then something came up, and she was like, "Oh, there's this thing, that needs to be done." But
Vacuuming. It's vacuuming.
what was that?
It's vacuuming.
It was vacuuming.
Mm-hmm.
You're sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, my wife Jenica says it was vacuuming. Um, and so she's like, "No, just take care of it on Monday." And he's like, "Well, what's wrong with now? Let's do it right now. There's time." Um, and I feel like that's such an important thing to understand in life is to be proactive and not procrastinate and just do things now. Just get it done. You're serving your future self when you do things right now. And actually, now that I think about it, that I've done videos where we've focused on his emphasis of now. There was one time he gave a talk called "Now is the time to prepare," but in a bunch of other talks, he would really stress like now, 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 and for the purposes of my channel, in his second coming talk, October of last year, he said now is the time for you and for me to prepare for the second coming. Now, 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 now. Like with everything, not just the second coming, just whatever it is, do it now. Julie Love, I've never cried when a prophet died until now. Donna Southward, um, he is in the arms of Jesus. I believe Joseph Smith greeted him also. Talk about return with honor. He loved uh, Dancel uh, also so much. Amy Hatch, I remember how exciting each of his talks were. Lisa P. Frampton, you're up late. When did you get on live? 53 minutes and 49 seconds ago. I, yeah, in case you're joining, and I'm probably going to wrap up soon, but I mean, there's also no rush. We're in Utah. We have people watching our house at home, but we're in Utah making a trip. I'm meeting with some people. I'm also here to record, uh, get some like footage of temples and church sites for my other channel, Explore Church Sites. And today we went to. Okay, what did we do today?
Gardner Village.
No, what temples? Saratoga Springs,
Saratoga Springs. Provo City Center.
Provo City Center,
Orem.
and Orem. Went to 3 temples today. We went to Gardner Village, which is like whatever. It's a place where you walk around and buy things that you don't need. And a lot of walking. Then we went to my parents' house, and we were there kind of late. Got home, was getting ready for the night, just looking forward to the night. So tired. Got out of the shower, and there was a notification. There was a text from Mindy with Temples of Jesus, and it was in this group chat, and she was like, "Oh no, President Nelson," and I thought that she was talking about a recent article that came out that said that President Nelson's eyesight was basically gone. That it seems like he's like pretty much blind now. Uh, and so that's what I texted back. I was like, "Oh, what President Nelson's eyesight?" But then as I thought about it, I was like, "No, she can't be talking about him having passed away." So I did a Google search, and yes, there were all these articles that had just broken about a half hour before I got her text saying that he had passed away. And when I first saw the first one, I don't want to sound cliche because I feel like I've heard this story a million times over with other events, but when I first saw it, it didn't look or it didn't feel real. Have you ever had that happen to you before? Like something you know is true, something is happening, but it still feels like it's not real. That's what happened. And then, you know, then I knew I needed to do live stream, and let's talk about it. Tyson Price, what part of Utah are you in? We're in Saratoga Springs. I'm in the same Airbnb that we were in last year, this very same time of year. Last year we were here, and I actually went to General Conference in person to the Saturday afternoon session, and that was the General Conference where President Nelson gave his second coming talk, and the whole trip last year was just really it was so good for so many different reasons, and we really liked this Airbnb, so we decided to you know come and stay at the same place. And now this time, this is what happened. Lisa says, "Dude, you can't keep your eyes open." I know, I know. I'm still trying to recover from the drive, even though it's been a couple days.
No.
Brian Stengel, a good evening from Kaysville, Utah, just next to Layton. I went and met Caitlin for the first time in person. Both our families got together, and I have a picture that I'm gonna post on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll do a community post on YouTube. It was so great to meet her. Christian ADHD mom, Jared, are you staying for conference? No, not this time. Kevin Wright, wow, what an amazing legacy he left. Kevin from North Dakota, be peacemakers, brothers, uh, brothers, God bless. Yeah, I mean, if we didn't do it before, and we really should have, if we didn't do it before, we really need to really take in his messages. I feel like he was giving us some pretty serious messages, not the least of which was being peacemakers. I know it's really hard, but we have got to be peacemakers. PC Pyro says, I thought he was going to usher in the second coming. Well, maybe he will. I mean, he's passed away, but what if it happens within a couple months? What if it happens last year? Maybe a lot of the major things that he needed to do or that needed to be done by the president of the church has been done by him. Chad Goldweight says a successor is not expected to be formally chosen by the church's quorum of the 12 apostles until after President Nelson's funeral. Details pending. Yeah. Well, my best guess is that they would probably do it before conference, but maybe not. Lisa P. Frampton, strength beyond my own. That's in my family as well. Gardner Village. Okay, well, it's late. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. If this is the first time that you're hearing it, is this live stream? But just to finish off, he is now obviously in a much better place. He's now reunited with Dancel and his daughter and whoever else in his family that's passed on already and his friends that have passed on. He's now with the previous presidents of the church. We need to pray for Wendy and for his family, his children and grandchildren, and everybody else, friends, church leadership, because they're going to need help going forward. President Oaks is already really incredible himself, but it just going through any large transition like this, help is needed. Help is needed. So pray for President Oaks and all 15 and the new apostle that we'll get, whoever that ends up being. Pray for the church and it's gonna be okay. The Lord is in the timing. The Lord knew that this was going to happen. It was planned by the Lord, so things are going the way that they're supposed to be going, and we'll just see what happens next. I hope you guys have a good rest of your night. If you're here in the United States and you're still awake, have a good night. If you're somewhere else in the world, have a good rest of your Sabbath day, and I'll talk to you guys later.